Welcome to today's episode where we're talking all about financial unknowns and how those kind of can be pretty scary if you've ever experienced any of them. So if you're out there and you're worried about finances, you have anxiety around it and the unknowns that pertain to those, then this is an episode that's going to go through three great questions that you could be discussing both with yourself and your spouse as well. So the first question is all about what would make you happy in the present. The second question is talking about what track you're on long term to give you that confidence for today. And the last question is how you protect all that in case the unforeseen happens, kind of in a way that might blow all that kind of stuff up for you. So we'll go through those three questions today. Now, before we get into that, just to kind of illustrate unknowns and the way that they work, when it comes to unknowns, they're not just finance related, obviously. Any unknowns cause anxiety. So when my son Noah was first born, he came home from the hospital. And when he came home from the hospital, he had all of these kind of little bumps on his stomach. First, they weren't really much of anything, and you wouldn't really notice them. If you ever had a baby come home, their skin can be, not quite pristine when they first come out. So it takes a little bit of time for them to get acclimated. And so at first it wasn't anything that we thought was off or that we'd be concerned about. But after, these blistery bumps kind of started to come out where those were, 2, then 3, then 4, something didn't click. Now we said, all right, we need to do something about this. We got to find out what we should be doing. So, the first thing that you wind up doing is after you freak out a little bit, because of course this happens in the middle of the night every time, you leave a message for the pediatrician, then you try to go to sleep, which you can't do because you're up all night worrying. You're saying, well, what if it's this? What if it's that? And you're looking on your phone, and that's always a terrible idea, yet we all do that anyway, of course. And you're saying, well, this terrible thing might be true, or this really horrible thing might be true. And so you spend the whole night not really being able to get much sleep. Now, the next day we wake up, go to the pediatrician, get the appointment. They diagnose it as something called impetigo. Okay, now we know what it is, right? It's not an unknown anymore. And now they say, hey, just go to CVS or whatever, get this prescription strength Neosporin equivalent, and it'll be good in the future. So at that point, we knew what it was. We had a plan for how to treat it, and it was not fun for the next couple of weeks. Basically having him sitting on our knees with no shirt on, putting the ointment on, holding his hands up so he didn't touch it and get all over his body. So that wasn't fun, but that was fine. We knew what it was. We knew how to treat it, and so we got through it much better. No more sleepless nights. Now, when it comes to personal finance, that kind of same unknown issue can be cropping up sooner rather than later. It comes up in pretty much everybody's situation because we're really not taught how to deal with it at all. So when you're going through your own personal finances with yourself or your spouse, if you have unknowns or things that are scaring you or make you feel uncomfortable, first off, know that's completely normal. Everybody around you has anxiety when it comes to finance, has anxiety around unknowns. They might not be sharing it openly, but everybody has those kinds of feelings. So these three questions that I'm going to go through are great starting points for you to have a discussion, both with yourself personally and with your spouse, if you have one, to kind of get on the same page and work your way having less unknowns, less lack of clarity when it comes to those. So the first question is, what actually makes life most enjoyable for you and for your family? And it may seem like a weird place to start. I know what makes me happy. I want to do this in my life. I want to retire. I want to do this, vacation in 5 years. But life isn't lived like that, right? We don't live 30 years out or 10 years out or a week out. We live today. So we need to make sure that in the day, in the week, in the month, in the year, that we're still doing things that are enjoyable for us. So for me and my spouse, for example, we really love going places that we've never been before. It doesn't have to be, Hong Kong. It could be something local, a different restaurant, a different type of an experience for something that we've already did. So, for example, my wife and I did a 24-hour trip to Disney, just my wife and I, which once my kids hear this, as they're older, they're 7 and 4 right now, but when they get older, they're going to be pretty pissed about that. But we had a great time, and that was a really cool experience. So whatever it is for you, set 1, 2, 3 things this year that don't have to cost $1 million. But when you look back, you're going to say that made me happy. I want to focus on making sure I check a couple more boxes off like that. So it could really be absolutely anything. Once you have that first question, then you can go into the second question. If I keep saving at the current rate, where is that going to get me? And hopefully you're saving something. If you're not saving anything, then you definitely want to start saving. Most people try to gear towards somewhere between anywhere from 15 to 25% as their savings rate. Depends kind of on what industry you're in, if you have a pension, that kind of stuff. But you definitely want to have some degree of savings. From there, you can kind of see like what track am I on long term with these savings? And that way you can have a little bit more clarity and confidence on if you're heading in the right direction. So there's definitely some resources out there that you could check out for, what you're saving, what path you're on, all that kind of stuff. Make sure if you're getting a match from your employer, you're working that into your savings rate as well, because that's free money that you're saving towards yourself also. But that can very well give you some financial clarity, some future going forward. So if you look at what you're saving 2%, you probably got to step that up. And if you can work that way up to 10, 15%, you're going to be feeling pretty good about yourself. And now you're in a better position to be able to enjoy today because you have less anxiety about what direction you might be going in the future. On the flip side, if you look at it and you're saving 30%, you could say, hey, I'm doing great compared to what a lot of people are doing. I could probably afford that extra trip here or there and still be okay and not like totally save for the future, still enjoy the present for that question number one. The last question, number 3, is really about protecting what you have. So if I died or was disabled tomorrow, what would happen? Now, obviously, this is the least fun question out of the 3, right? 1, super fun. What do I like doing? Let's try to do more of that. Number 2, hey, what am I saving? Hey, maybe I could push that a little bit higher. Am I on a good track? But it's a little bit of a game towards yourself that's positive. 3 is about really protection. Now, protection isn't the most exciting thing, but it is super important, especially if you have a family. So if something happened to you tomorrow, let's say you're saving great, you're enjoying life, but you don't have life insurance in place, or you don't have disability insurance in place, you don't have those protections, that's something that gives people a lot of anxiety as well. So people that I work with, they might come in and say, I have 2 kids, I have this life insurance policy that mom and dad bought me when I was 5 years old, but I have no idea if I have enough life insurance. I have no idea if I'm anywhere near where I need to be. So that third one is something that you definitely want to be addressing. Life insurance could be something that if you're younger and healthy can be very, very cost affordable, easy to get into when you're looking at like a term insurance policy, really doesn't have to break the bank. Something like disability insurance, a lot of employers provide that coverage where you can buy up to say 60% of your situation. But if you have those protections in place, now again, that reduces that financial anxiety, reduces those unknowns. So again, 1, what's making me happy? Number 2, what am I saving and what kind of track am I on with that? And number 3, am I protecting myself and my family accordingly? And for that third one, remember, having too much protection, generally speaking, isn't a huge deal. Really never came across a spouse that was like, something happened to my spouse, they passed away, and they really left me with too much life insurance. I'm really unhappy about that. So, having answers to those 3 questions can really reduce unknowns, reduce anxiety, and really free you up to enjoy today.